So we decided to come inside the Katagalan Cultural Centre, which is I think the indigenous type museum here in Beitou this morning, and we've caught an MRT a few stops out from Ximending, and we're now in Beitou. We've had a mantou this morning, which was amazing, apparently only available here with pork belly and that kind of thing. So you walk towards the markets, so the Beitou market from the MRT station, and get these, gua bao, and absolutely beautiful. So we're going to go inside the cultural centre. So the indigenous outfits and that kind of thing, they definitely look more like almost South American, or like some of the sort of other Central Asian sort of cultures. So really interesting, the actual outfits, and made out of natural fibres and that kind of thing. So this is here in the cultural centre, and they have some macrame style hangings and that kind of thing, so it almost looks like what we'd call back home a dream catcher. So that's actually really interesting. And then some of the more modern variations, obviously, with the fluoro colours, and some of the pottery and that kind of thing definitely looks like South American type stuff. And the weaving. And the baskets. So we've just come into the Hot Springs Museum, and it's actually very Japanese influenced in here. So there is a tatami room as you enter. You've got to change out of your shoes and into their slippers, and lots of lanterns and that kind of thing around behind. So nice little tatami room here. Good for relaxing, but you can really lie down in there. So we're going to go for a walk around. So as it turns out, there is actually a radioactive mineral, hercutolite, in the water here, a lead barium mixture. So for the scientist in me, that's really interesting. But nothing like bathing in radioactive water to get you healthy. Goes to show how science has changed. But the building itself is absolutely stunning. So there's these beautiful high arches and tiled floors around the baths. So we've come up the hill, we caught a bus up here, and we're going to head into the Beitou Museum. So it's in this old Japanese building here, or Japanese style building behind me. So we're going to head on in and have a look around. the old customs wharf over the road, and this is out in Tamsui, which is near the waterfront, so at the end of the MRT line. So we're going to go on inside. So we've just come in the front gates of the fort. It was actually built by the Dutch in the 17th century. There's all the main fort buildings up the top of the hill, and you've got the cafe and stuff down the front in what looks like some of the old buildings as well. So we're going to go for a walk around. So as you climb up the steps to the fort, there's an old banyan tree and some bamboo, and it is quite a climb up the hill, so just be prepared for that. So there's a bit of a story behind these 9 flags that fly outside the fort. So the fort was obviously built quite a long time ago. So the Spanish came to Tamsui in 1628 and established the fort, and they then left and the Dutch came along. Or should I say the Spanish actually expelled, or the Dutch expelled the Spanish from Taiwan, and the Spanish destroyed the original fortress, hence the name San Domingo, being Spanish. And then what happened is the Dutch obviously came along, and they obviously established a site here as well during the Kavinga period, and then they also used the site as a granary. And then in 1724, I think it is, the Qing dynasty government then renovated the fort and added 4 fortress gates. And then in the 1800s, the British came along and they signed a permanent lease to use the fort as a British consulate. So there's a little bit of a history here. So you've got quite a view out from what used to be the British Consul General's office, which is pretty cool. And this is what we call a toilet with a view. A toilet with a view out one of the old cannon openings, presumably added by the British. So the story behind the Australian and US flags down at the front of this building is that in the early 40s, when the war started, the British closed the consulate, and then obviously because of the war with Japan and the like, and then when the war ended, the British took over again, and then they kept consulate here. And then when they moved, and when relations broke down, the consulate was actually, or should I say, when relations with China broke down, the consulate, or the Australian embassy, took over management of the fort. And then when the Australians took over, they were there for about 12 months, and then the Americans took over in 73, and then after 73, the Americans were there for a few years, and then it was offered back to the British. So into the second building. It's obviously a tourist site. You can definitely see the British influence. So you've got Oxford College as you walk up through the back. We're walking around to the little White House now. This actually goes through a university campus. So there's these arches, these sort of Gothic church arches. And the church over the back here is kind of this almost Gothic architecture with these arches. So pretty interesting walk up the back. So you can either catch the bus or walk 5 minutes along the top of the ridge to to the little white house, which was a customs officer's house, and it's through university campus. So we've walked up to the customs officer's house, aka the little white house, and it is down a little laneway and up a hill, but the gardens are nice, with a nice view overlooking the water. So we've come down to the old house of the township head, Tadaakichi, back in the Japanese days. So we're down at the Tamsui Fisherman's Wharf, and there's a Lovers Bridge, and they call this behind me the Lovers Tower. There is a tower up there, so So we're walking down the Tamsui Fisherman's Wharf at the moment, and the bridge over here is actually apparently called the Lovers Bridge. So yeah, someone thought it would be a good idea to walk over that, of course, for obvious reasons. So we're going to go for a walk. Looks like there's restaurants and stuff down the other side. Obviously the marina here, where all the fishing boats come in as well. So I'm going to go for a walk. And yeah, so we're going to walk the bridge now. Let's go for a walk.
So that's why they call it the Lovers Bridge.
Well,
That's a bit of history for you.
yeah, there's your history. Opened on Valentine's Day. Yeah, what do you think of the Lovers Bridge?
Well, there are too many people.
Yeah. So we're just walking up through the Peace Park to the Hebei Fort, which was or dates back to the Chinese days of the Sino-French War, which was fought over Vietnam, and it was the old Chinese fort. So we're just going for a walk up there. It is up the hill, so be warned. So walking through, be warned, this place does close at 5. Oh, really cool wooden doors. And we just got here, so we have about 5 minutes to go for a quick walk around. So yeah, it's included on 3, or a ticket for the 3 things. So the little white house, the old fort, the San Domingo Fort, and also this, the Hebei Fort as well. So there's a couple of very dark rooms around the perimeter, and obviously all the really cool old trees, and it goes around in a square, and obviously the cannons on the top as well. So yeah, you can see the cannons on the top on the far side there. So street now. Be warned, the bus drivers here in Taipei are bananas. Yeah, you got to get on and get off super quick. So we got this traditional Thai, they call it a castella cake, and it's like super fluffy and still warm. It looks almost like a cross between a sponge cake and a cheesecake. It's like eggy, a little bit eggy and not too sweet. Yeah, kind of like almost like a cross between a cheesecake and a really light fluffy cheesecake and a sponge cake. And it's really high, like really tall. There's about three shops selling this down in the Tamsui Old Street, so well worth checking out.
It's trembling. The system is trembling. Don't talk while I'm talking at the same time.
Ooh.
Well, that's
Ooh.
two people talking. Does it make sense to you? Does it make sense to you?
Makes perfect sense on the Lovers Bridge to have a lovers quarrel, right?